On Larry King Now, the hilarious and talented comedian Russell Peters.
They never watched it. They never really knew about stand-up comedy because it's such an American thing. And then when they saw somebody that looked like them or someone that they could relate to, they were like, ooh, what's this? Oh, that's funny. He's talking about us. But really, if you break it down, I'm talking about everybody.
Plus,
There was very few comics my dad would listen to with me. But Carlin was the thing that united us. And I feel like he did every premise before everybody else did it. No matter who. He did every joke before any other comic could have done the joke.
that's all next on Larry King Now. Welcome to Larry King Now. I'm Tom Green, filling in for Larry. Today, we welcome comedian Russell Peters, a fellow Canadian. Russell got his start at the Celebs in Toronto. In 2013, he was number 3 on the Forbes list of the world's highest paid comedians and became the first comedian to get a Netflix stand-up special. The first comedian to get a Netflix stand-up special. Russell continues to be one of the most in-demand stand-up comedians in the world. He's got an Amazon special coming out early next year called Russell Peters Deported, which he filmed in Mumbai, India, and he recently wrapped his Deported World Tour. Welcome.
Well, hello, Tommy.
Yeah, we know each other.
We know each other for a long time.
We've done this kind of thing before.
Yeah, I've been watching, growing up in Canada, you watched Tom on local cable access back then.
The public access.
Yeah, there was
Cable
Channel 10. Yep.
Cable 10 in Toronto.
Yeah, we would
Cable
get it.
22 in Ottawa. But
Was it 22 in Ottawa?
I remember when Rogers Cable 10 in Toronto picked up my show from Rogers 22
It was
in
like
Ottawa.
94.
I thought I'd made it.
93, 94.
I was on TV in Toronto.
It was your post-rap career.
Yeah.
It was your post-rap
I
career.
thought maybe Russell Peters might even be watching. I was like, we're on in Toronto.
You know, I met you so many times back then, you never cared.
Well, no,
You were, but you've always been, I think if somebody doesn't actually know you, like haven't met you a couple of times, they don't realize you're sort of aloof, but it's not like you're unaware.
really? Is that really true, you think so?
This is how I see you, as aloof but not unaware.
It could be social anxiety.
It could be.
Maybe I just have a
I
hard
think
time.
we didn't diagnose back then.
Yeah.
Now we have names for all these
because
things.
you are into hip hop.
Yes,
You're a hip hop DJ.
I am. I'm a
Toronto is essentially, arguably, the ground zero for hip hop now,
in Canada.
with Drake being from there, maybe for the world, right?
Sure, it could be.
Yeah.
There's definitely something happening.
Yeah.
Do you ever talk about your rap career in here? Because it was actually, he was in a group, so you guys know. Tom was in a group called Organized Rhyme.
Yeah.
They had a song called Check the OR, where I think they sampled the SOS band.
Yeah. It was Curtis Blow the Brakes.
Oh, it was the Breaks.
Yeah.
Right, Curtis Blow the Breaks.
yeah.
And it was actually a really good song.
Yeah. And that's maybe why we knew each other in Toronto then, because of the hip hop
And
connection.
then, one of my security guys is in your music video for that, being your security guy.
But enough about me.
It's never enough about you, Tom.
You have this global success with your stand-up comedy. How did that happen?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I just started doing it 30 years ago, and when I started, there was nobody that looked like me. I was the first Indian guy, and I wasn't trying to be like the first anything. I just happened to be, you know what I mean? And I wasn't even trying to be the Indian guy. I was just trying to be a comic. And in '89 when I started, a lot of the older comics, I say older, they must have been in their 20s. You know what I mean?
Right.
Maybe 30s, But these guys were real bitter and pissed off about everything.
Yeah.
They were mad that the comedy boom in the '80s was kind of coming to it was slowing down a little bit. So all I would hear about is, you don't know what it's like, kid. We used to fly in private jets and do coke off hookers. And I'm like, I don't know about that world, dude.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to make people laugh. That's all I cared.
That wasn't the goal for you.
It was never, I didn't even know about that world. I didn't know anybody in the entertainment business. As I'm sure neither did you growing up.
No, I mean,
having seen your parents my entire life on, TV, knowing how normal they were, that the juxtaposition of you versus them was crazy.
I was a fan of comedy. I remember seeing you doing stand-up. You were one of the first Canadian stand-ups I would see on TV.
I
on the
think
Comedy Now show.
Yeah, my first special was '95.
Yeah.
It was comics.
And then your YouTube video
Yeah.
that you did not upload
I did not upload that.
exploded on YouTube.
Yeah, well, what happened was about a year before YouTube started, somebody had taken the special and chopped it up into like Italian, Indian, Jamaican, Chinese, like all the bits I was doing at the time, and they were emailing it to people. That's how you know, the file sharing world back then. It was like, oh, check out this comedian I emailed you. Then you'd have to download it, and it would take you a day.
Yeah.
And whatever the case may be, but that's what started it. And then in July of 2004, June of 2005, YouTube started, and somebody dumped the entire thing on YouTube. I still, to this day, do not know how to upload to YouTube.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
But that's interesting, though. Someone else did it for you.
Yes.
And that really kind of exploded your career in some ways, right?
Yeah.
Blew it up in a major worldwide way.
Right.
Do you ever find out who it was that uploaded it?
I think it's almost an impossibility to figure out who did that.
You might owe him some money or something like that.
I owe him something.
Yeah.
Him or her, whoever it was, I owe them something.
So you just finished your Deported World Tour.
Yes.
And how'd that go?
Amazing. You know, we started in Australia, then we went through Asia, the Middle East, India, Europe. We did it all, really. I mean, the only place we didn't hit was South America.
So when you go to all these countries, is there a difference in the way people perceive comedy in the Middle East versus India?
Well, yeah. I mean, Asia and the Middle East, I was basically their first introduction to stand-up.
Yeah.
Hence why I'm so popular there. So they never watched it. They never really knew about stand-up comedy because it's such an American thing. And then when they saw somebody that looked like them or someone that they could relate to, they were like, ooh, what is this? Oh, that's funny. He's talking about us. But really, if you break it down, I'm talking about everybody. I mean, you know, everybody thinks that their nationality is the only one that does this certain thing. But once you do it in every place, you all find out that everybody does the exact same thing, you know.
Right, right. So in India now, is comedy becoming a thing?
There's a boom there right now.
Yeah.
There's, I think comedy is maybe at max 10 years old there now.
You shot your Amazon special in Mumbai, right?
I did, yeah.
And why did you decide to do that?
Well, it being my 30th year, I wanted to commemorate the 30 years by paying respect to the place where I've made a lot of jokes about.
Yeah.
I wanted them to know that everything I've said about them is out of love. And that's why I wanted to show them, like, this is how much you mean to me. I'm willing to share this milestone. I want us to share this milestone together.
You're known for doing a lot of accents.
I've done one or two.
Yeah. Is there an accent that you have been unable to master?
I think Scottish has always been a tough one for me.
Is there a culture that you refuse to poke fun at?
There's really nobody I refuse to poke fun at. It's a question of, has it crossed my path? I don't really go out of my way to do this. It's just kind of like the way my life intersects with people, and then as these things happen, like, you know, I never been to Romania. I didn't know any Romanians really growing up, but then I met this one lady at my daughter's school who was Romanian, and she was talking to me, and she told me, like, her brother got into trouble when he moved to America because the Romanian way of saying, yes, I will do it, is yao fuck, or fuck yao. And so he was on a construction site, and she was there, and they were like, hey, I need you to pass me this hammer. And he said, fuck yo. And he got fired because he thought this guy thought he was like, but really he was just saying, yes, I'll do it.
So when you're sort of exploring these different cultural, you know, ideas, is this just something that you find in the world, or are you kind of looking?
Yeah, you just hear things that make you laugh. And now people volunteer things to me, like, hey, by the way, did you know in our language, blah, blah, blah is blah, blah, blah? And then, like, oh, that's pretty funny. I'll see if I can figure that out.
Yeah.
I have to make sure it connects with me, and it's not just something I'm saying for the sake of saying.
When we return, Russell Peters on growing up in Canada, his big break, and the advice George Carlin gave him. His latest special will be out on Amazon Prime early next year. We'll be right back on this edition of Larry King Now. Welcome back to Larry King Now. I'm Tom Green, in for Larry, and my guest today is Russell Peters. How's it feel to be a new dad again?
Well, you know, at our age, I think we're the same age, Tommy.
Yeah.
You know, this isn't what I expected to happen at this age, but I mean, he's a beautiful kid. I can't complain at all.
Are you getting? Is it a source of material for stand-up?
Not yet, I don't think. I think I need a little bit of distance from things. It's never like an immediate thing that happens for me where it's like, oh, I need to write this down right away. It's like, I'll see if it's still funny in a couple of months.
So your next special isn't going to be about, you know?
No, I think that's kind of, it's okay, but it's not like it's not, for me, it's not exciting. I don't look at myself, I'm not a fan of myself, but at the same time, I can look at myself from a fan's perspective and go, What would you think of that? Nah, that's not what you want to hear from me.
Do you remember the first stand-up show you did?
Oh, I do, absolutely, yeah. It was at Yuck Yucks, Young and Eglinton, in November of 1989. And I was like the funny guy in my crew of friends. And, you know, I remember one night, I think it might have been in September, a couple months before that, I stood on my friend's bumper outside of a nightclub because I hadn't turned 19 yet, so I couldn't get in the clubs yet. So we would rely on if they checked ID or not. And I couldn't get in that night. So I stood on my friend's bumper of his car, and I just made fun of people in the parking lot.
Right.
And they were like, man, you got to do stand-up. And I was like, all right. Well, then I was like, oh, man. So I got on stage, and I was horrible.
The first time, maybe that would be.
No, I mean, you know what it is the first time you get on stage, you don't realize how much outside noise there is when you're being the funny guy, you know? And then when you get on stage, it's a dead silent room, and they're just waiting on you. And that's when you realize, oh, this is real now.
So what made you decide to do it again?
I got a chuckle, I think.
Yeah.
I think somebody laughed at something really lame that I did or said.
And so you
I got the bug, and I wanted to try it again. And then the second time went better, but I went short on my time. You get 5 minutes. I think I did 2.5, 3 maybe. And then I was like, good night.
And so you started writing and performing regularly, and then it became...
I started to figure things out, you know. And my dad was trying to discourage me from it.
Was he really?
Oh, the whole time.
Oh, wow.
Because my dad, when he moved to Canada in the 60s, my dad was an English major, and writing was his forte. So if you ever read anything my dad wrote, you'd be like, wow, this guy's amazing. But my dad was a short, dark, brown man, and he had a mild Indian accent, but his name was Eric Peters. He submitted something, some writings to a newspaper who was looking for an editor or a writer or something, and they were like, wow, this is amazing, come on in for an interview. You know, you read this, you see Eric Peters, you're like, this is our guy. And my dad walks in, they're like, oh no, job's been filled.
Oh, really?
So it broke my dad's heart, so he didn't want me to get my feelings hurt by the industry. So he would try to discourage me from it by saying things like, you know, this isn't the industry for us. So we don't do these types of things. It's for the blacks, the Jews, the whites. It's their world, and we don't do this. And I go, well, that's why I want to do this, because we don't do this.
Yeah.
I need to change something.
Yeah. And was he amazed when you found success?
He passed away right before it blew up.
Wow.
Like literally the year, like March of 2004, my dad passed away, and by the end of 2004, I was on my way.
Yeah. What do you think he would think of how things
I think
have
he'd be
gone?
amazed by it, because he always thought I did very lowbrow stuff.
Yeah.
My dad was always like, you need to expand your repertoire.
Yeah.
That's what my dad would tell me. And I'm like, thanks, Dad. It's very helpful of you. You need to read Reader's Digest. They have funny stories. I'm like, I'm not reading Reader's Digest.
Now, that you must hope that he can be aware from another place.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, if that exists, yeah, I hope so.
Amazing. Next, funny fan encounters, best and worst advice, guilty pleasures, and more in our fan favorite, If You Only Knew, with comedian Russell Peters. Stay right there. Welcome back to Larry King Now. I'm Tom Green, and for Larry, and my guest today is Russell Peters.
Yes, it is.
Yes. You met George Carlin in 1992. Was he a hero of yours? Or?
Absolutely.
Did he give you some advice?
Yeah, so here's what I used to do. I used to take, because I was a DJ, and I still DJ, but I used to make mixtapes for myself and for my friends, and I would take a George Carlin record and play something from that at the beginning, and then I would mix music behind it, and then I would start my mixtape.
Nice.
That's how you knew it was my mixtape, because it would start with like a Carlin bit or a Pryor bit or whatever comedy record I had at the time.
Seems like that would be pretty good for scratching.
And then it was the night the Blue Jays clinched the World Series, and everybody was partying up and down Yonge Street. And I was, you know, my car was driving beside us, but I was like, you know, hanging out the car like a jerk.
Oh, yeah?
I let one of my friends drive. I was like, woo! And then I got out and started walking, because there was, you know, girls everywhere. Everyone's having a great time. Everyone's in a good mood. And this old guy's walking towards me, and I thought I was being a smartass. I was like, I elbowed my friend. This guy looks like George Carlin.
Yeah.
And as he walked past, to be a dick, I went, how you doing, George? And he went, how you doing, kid? And I was like, what? And I chased after him, and I walked him back to his hotel. I'm sure I freaked him out.
Wow, that's amazing.
And I walked him back, and I talked to him about comedy, and he told me to get on stage as much as possible. And then right before I left him, I said, hey, maybe we'll work together someday, huh? He goes, you never know, kid, crazy business. And then literally 10 months before he passed away, I got to work with him.
You did?
Yeah.
You performed at a show with him? Or?
Well, he was working out his material for his new special at the Comedy and Magic Club in Hermosa Beach, and they called me because they knew I was a huge Carlin fan, and they said, hey, listen, George is coming in to run material. Do you want to be on the show? Do you want to feature? I'm like, can I host? Mm-hmm. And they said, yeah. So they let me host. So I got to introduce him. I got all emotional. My chin started quivering when I was introducing him, you know? It was great, though.
What is it about him that you think was so great?
I think it was his wordplay, his command of the language. And my dad and I used to listen to him together.
Yeah.
Like, there was very few comics my dad would listen to with me. I remember bringing home Sam Kinison, and
He didn't like that one.
No. My dad was like, get that blasphemy out of my house. I'm like, what? He's just joking.
Yeah.
Yeah, so certain things I couldn't play around him, but Carlin was the thing that united us, and I feel like he did every premise before everybody else did it. No matter who. He did every joke before any other comic could have done the joke.
Is there a city that you like performing in best?
I don't know. I kind of enjoy everywhere.
Are American audiences different?
American audiences are a little different, but I don't really get too much middle America. I don't think they care, personally. They don't care about what I'm doing. But I do try to go out there and expand it because, you know, at the end of the day, if you're a comic like myself who's a road comic, that's just where you made your bones. So it's going to be good and bad. You know, you're going to have good nights, you're going to have horrible nights, but that keeps you honest.
So L.A., Mumbai, same jokes, same reaction?
Similar. I mean, I will make some things a little bit more Indo-centric in India, you know, to let them know I'm aware of where I'm at.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing when you go to New York, or you go to Detroit, or you go to Chicago, or whatever. You do something to let them know that I know where I'm at, and I know what you guys are about.
It's amazing how connected we are now. I mean,
we are all very connected.
all over
with,
the world.
With the internet and Instagram and all that stuff, people are very aware. There's like a base for knowledge, and then, you know, it can go above or below accordingly.
Okay, we're going to play a game right now.
Okay.
It's called If You Only Knew.
Right.
Short answers to some quick questions.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Your proudest accomplishment?
Being a father seems like a safe one.
Yes. A food that you can't seem to stomach?
Liver.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Something that scares you?
I don't really get scared very often.
Nothing, huh?
Climate change scares me.
Yeah. A funniest or strangest fan encounter?
I had a guy come up to me in Australia, and you know Angelo Sarukis?
Yes.
Angelo was opening for me there, and we did like a little meet and greet after the show, so we had a table set up with me and Ange, and this guy comes up, it's an Indian kid, and he goes, Russell, does Vunani really mean vagina? And I said, it's Punani, and yes, it does. And he goes, okay. And then he asked me another question, and I go, yes, and I give him the answer, and then I go, okay, good? He goes, yeah. I go, what's your name? He goes, Rockshit. I'm like, what? How do you have questions about anything when your name is Rockshit?
Yeah, Angelo, of course, I've known for 30 years. He was doing stand-up at Yuck Yucks when I was a kid, but I was shocked to see him killed in Indian Detective.
Yes, I did not want that to happen to him, but
yeah.
I mean, I always try to cast Ange in anything I do.
Yeah. I love your show, Indian Detective, by the way.
Thanks.
Yeah, I've started watching it.
We're doing a sequel, like a movie, though.
I think it's just amazing. Everybody can watch that on Netflix right now.
They can. Do you want to be in the movie?
I would love to be in the movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you miss acting? Do you like it?
I love it, yeah. I love it. Yeah,
I remember when you were the Chad.
I was the Chad, yeah. No, great show, Netflix, Indian Detective. An animal you wish you could talk to?
Gorilla.
The most starstruck you've ever been?
Prince. I got to meet Prince a few times, and I was starstruck every single time. And by the last time I saw him, he like knew who I was. He was like, "Hey, man."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Hey," you know. I would turn into a little girl for some reason.
You think that's a Canadian thing, being starstruck? You think we're more?
I don't think you're much of a starstruck kind of guy.
Oh no, I get.
Do you?
I get it.
Yeah, no, I get it all the time. I enjoy it though.
I think we're more unaccustomed to seeing people like Prince.
Yeah, I mean, I got to spend New Year's with him once, and that to me was, even still talking about it still freaks me out.
Who's your favorite comedian?
Of all time? George Carlin.
Place we would find you on a day off?
At jiu-jitsu.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I train every day.
Oh, really?
But even on a day off, I would probably train twice a day.
So so how long have you been doing that?
3.5 years.
Oh, okay. So you have a belt now?
I'm a blue belt with 2 stripes.
Okay.
My coach wants to make me a purple belt, but I told him not yet because I want to do the World Masters next year. And I want to do it as a blue belt category.
Oh, okay. Wow, it's good exercise, huh?
It's a great exercise.
Now, why jiu-jitsu and not judo or karate?
Well, I used to box for 9 years, and jiu-jitsu's, first of all, I think it's the most useful, and it's the one martial art that actually works.
Okay.
Karate looks great, and it works if you're like a high-level guy.
Yeah.
But you don't need to be a high-level person in jiu-jitsu to be successful at it.
I don't even really know the difference. Is jiu-jitsu more like...
It's a ground fighting.
Yeah, you take them down.
Yeah, I think it's a must. I think every woman should definitely learn jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Because size is irrelevant, and it's about being comfortable, excuse this expression, on your back, but being able to defend on your back, and not being afraid, oh my God, I'm on my back. They're like, a jiu-jitsu guy, you throw us on our back, we're like, okay, now what do you want to do? Because you're in trouble now, not me.
Right, right. Wow, okay. Someone you wish you could switch places with for a day?
Probably somebody devious too, just to see, just to really get the inner workings of their heads.
Donald Trump.
Yes, I was going to say that. I was going to say Donald Trump, just to see what's really going on in there.
A guilty pleasure.
I know I've thought about this answer before in the past. Oh, this would be a great answer if somebody asked me what my guilty pleasure was.
You're editing all the things out you don't want to see on the Larry King.
No, not at all. I'm not that guy. I'm very honest. I guess going to the mall and shopping is a big guilty pleasure.
Right. Buying cool stuff.
I do, even if I don't buy stuff.
Watch.
This old thing.
Yeah. We'll be back in a minute with Russell Peters answering your social media fan questions when we return. Stick around. You're watching Larry King Now. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Larry King Now. I'm Tom Green, and for Larry, my guest today is Russell Peters, who was just talking in the break about how you stopped a crime in New York. Solved.
Because I'm a sleuth.
The Indian detective solved a crime. No, you stopped a crime.
I did, yeah. I was at my friend's jewelry store in Manhattan. And this dude tried to steal a ring that, like, it was the price tag was like $150,000 or $200,000 ring.
Yeah.
And I just happened to be standing beside the door that he decided he wanted to leave from. But as soon as he stood up to leave, they hit a button and all the doors lock in the jewelry store. So he literally gets to the door that I'm standing at, and it's locked, and I'm literally standing there. I'm like, well, now what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
The door's locked. You're here. And I'm like, why don't you just give? In my head, I'm not saying anything. I'm just looking at him.
Yeah.
And in my head, I'm going, why don't you just give the ring back and then call it a day, because it's not gonna end well.
Yeah.
And unless you got a gun.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We should.
And my friend's father came to, hey, give me back the ring. And the guy took a swing at my friend's father. And that's when I jumped in, because I was like, nah.
You actually jiu-jitsu'd him.
I went to put him in a rear naked choke, but the other guy in the store pulled him down. And when he pulled him down, I missed the head, So then I had to follow the guy around. He's trying to get to the other door. And while he was trying to get to the other door, I happened to maybe have pushed his head and it hit the wall or whatever. But I don't know that happened.
Wow.
And then the other guy tripped him down to the ground, but he was scuffling, he was, tussling with him, but he didn't know what to do. So as soon as the guy I was trying to get the guy's arm, so I got the guy's arm and I locked his wrist and his arm. And as soon as I locked the arm, he goes, okay. And I was like, oh, this really works.
Jiu-jitsu comes in handy.
It really works.
Okay, we're going to end with a few social media questions for Russell, okay? Frank Beavers on Twitter says, when are you going to do a show in St. John's, Newfoundland?
I did a show in St. John's, Newfoundland once, I believe, years ago, and I probably should get back there. Frank Beavers, I'm with you, buddy. I think we need to expand on Eastern Canada when I get back out on tour.
Randall Clark on Facebook, is stand-up easier for you now that you've got all this experience?
Stand-up is never easy. I think it's actually a little harder now that you got the experience. I mean, the confidence is better, but at the same time, you're more self-conscious because you're like, well, people know this about me or that about me, and I don't want to seem dishonest, but at the same time, I also don't want to lose my position by having a bad set in front of the wrong people. So, yeah, there's a little bit of a, it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah. He also asks if it's hard to come up with new bits now that you've been doing it for so long.
I think it's not so much hard coming up with new bits. It's hard to polish new bits because you don't want to look like you're just still working on this one bit for years.
Right.
And you work on it for years, and it's really not that good to begin with, you know.
Right.
And then you see some really brilliant people out there that are doing amazing bits, and you're like, what's the point of me writing things?
So you get self-conscious about that?
You get
really?
self-conscious.
Even at this pace?
Oh yeah, you always got to doubt yourself.
Yeah.
I think the worst killer for us is overconfidence.
When you were the third highest grossing comedian of all time on Forbes'
It was
list?
a few years ago.
Yeah.
I think
Who was number 1 and 2? Seinfeld
and
Chris Rock or someone like that? Or?
Maybe, yeah. It was somebody big names like that.
Wow. Pretty amazing. Okay, Walter Jose Duarte Sandoval.
Oh, Walter, you should really shorten your. Just take 2 names.
Yeah, just 2. It's fine. Walter Sandoval on Facebook. Well, this is we've sort of covered this, I guess. But how did you become a comedian?
You just did it, buddy. You just did it. You just got to do things in life sometimes. You take that blind leap of faith, and you let your childish, reckless abandonment take over.
What's next? Where are you off to next?
I'll be at Levity Live in West Nyack, Palisades Mall in New York.
Yes.
And that is my first weekend back, and I literally am going on stage with 0.
You're going to go on stage.
I go on with nothing, and I talk to the audience for an hour.
Wow.
And hope something happens.
And you record it?
Yeah, I get my assistant to record it so that way I can review it back in case there's something I might have said that I missed.
Really?
And the goal is by the end of the 6 shows on the end of the weekend, the goal is that I have 2 minutes of material.
Right. So you'll just, through talking to the crowd, you might get into a subject that you would have never thought of just sitting at a desk.
Basically via conversation, And that's how you find out what connects you with people.
Russell, thank you.
Thank you, Tommy.
Always great to see you.
This is fun.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
I consider you a friend, so it's always nice to see you doing things.
Yeah, thanks, Russell. Appreciate it. A big thanks to my guest, Russell Peters. You can see him early next year in his Amazon Prime special, Russell Peters Deported. Thanks to Larry for having me fill in for him today. We'll see you next time.